The sound of cutlery clinking against porcelain was the only thing filling the air, yet somehow it felt deafening. My name is Hannah Cole. I'm 36 years old, a single mother, and a high school art teacher in Asheville, North Carolina. It was supposed to be just another awkward Sunday lunch with my ex-husband's family. I agreed to come because of Lucas, my 9-year-old, who had begged me to be nice so Grandma wouldn't be upset again. So here I was, sitting at a table covered in silverware, polished within an inch of its life, surrounded by people who never missed a chance to remind me I didn't belong. My ex-husband, Tyler, sat across from me, eating like it was just another meal. His mother, Evelyn, smiled too much, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. And his brother, Nick, barely looked at me, eyes fixed on his plate, as if the food might save him from the tension in the air. Then, my phone buzzed softly in my lap. I glanced down, shielding the screen from view. It was an unknown number. The message was short and sharp, like a blade pressed to my skin. "Don't react. They're recording you." For a moment, my fork froze mid-air. My chest tightened, but my face stayed still. Years of swallowing insults had taught me how to wear a mask. I took a slow breath, forcing a small smile as if nothing had happened, but inside my mind was a storm. Recording me? Here? Why? I let my eyes wander the room without moving my head too much. That picture frame on the far wall? I could have sworn it used to be straight, but now it leaned just enough to be suspicious. The outlet cover near the corner had a gap that wasn't there before, and the new decorative vase on the sideboard? I'd never seen it in Evelyn's perfectly curated home. Every instinct told me something was off. Years of teaching art had trained me to notice details, but this was different. This was survival. I thought about the years of snide comments Evelyn had made in front of me, and sometimes in front of Lucas, about how some women marry to escape their own mess, or good mothers don't let their children eat processed food. I thought about how Tyler always sat silent, pretending not to hear. Now, the air around the table felt heavier. I kept chewing slowly, my mind turning over the possibilities. Were they trying to provoke me? Catch me raising my voice? Use it in court to take Lucas from me? I swallowed my fear with my water and made a decision. If they wanted to watch me, fine. I'd give them exactly what they didn't want: composure. And when the time came, I'd make sure I was the one doing the watching. This wasn't just a family lunch anymore. It was the opening move in a game I hadn't agreed to play. But I intended to win. That night, after Lucas was asleep in his room, the words from that anonymous text kept circling in my head like a vulture. "They're recording you." I couldn't shake the image of that crooked picture frame or that unfamiliar vase. I had to know. Tyler had dropped Lucas off at Evelyn's earlier in the week for an overnight visit, so I told myself I had an excuse to stop by. I forgot Lucas's sketchbook. But the truth was, I wanted inside that house without an audience. Evelyn was in the kitchen when I arrived, her back to me, humming something classical while she cleaned. "Sketchbooks in Lucas's room," she said, without looking. I smiled, thanked her, and walked down the hallway, every nerve on high alert. But I didn't go to Lucas's room. Instead, I slipped quietly into the small study Evelyn used as an office. The room smelled faintly of lemon polish and stale paper. Against one wall was a desk with a sleek laptop, its screen dark but not locked. That alone made my heart race. Evelyn didn't seem like the type to leave her devices unsecured. The cursor blinked on a desktop filled with neat folders. One caught my eye immediately. Cole Backup. My stomach turned. I clicked. Inside were subfolders labeled by dates and rooms. Kitchen 0412, living room 0415, bathroom 0415, bedroom 0420. My hands trembled as I opened the first file. The video showed me in the kitchen, making tea, my hair pulled back, humming to myself. Harmless. But the next file made my throat close. It was me in the bedroom, pacing during a phone call with my friend, telling her how exhausted I was, how much I hated the custody tension. Then I noticed the edits. Jump cuts, missing pieces of sentences. The footage made it sound like I was on the verge of a breakdown. Frantic, incoherent. Words spliced together like a ransom note. They weren't just watching me, they were building a case, clip after clip, room after room. Some taken from angles so private I felt sick. The bathroom, the bedroom. Times I was with Lucas reading him bedtime stories or helping him with homework. I saw myself in moments no one should ever see without my permission. It wasn't paranoia. This was deliberate, invasive, and planned. I glanced toward the doorway, listening for any sound from the kitchen. My heart thudded in my ears as I plugged my small flash drive into the laptop and began copying the entire Cole backup folder. When the progress bar finally reached 100%, I yanked the drive out, closed every folder, and quietly backed out of the room. Evelyn smiled at me in the hallway as I clutched Lucas's sketchbook to my chest. "Got what you came for?" she asked lightly. "Yes," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Exactly what I needed." She had no idea how right she was. I waited until Lucas was asleep in his own bed before I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The folder opened instantly, and just seeing the list of files again made my stomach churn. I clicked on the earliest one, thinking I could work my way forward. Most of the first clips were petty: me cooking, folding laundry, grading papers at the kitchen table. But as the days progressed, the angles changed, becoming sharper, more invasive. Then I found it. The clip that made my blood turn cold. The date stamp was from last Friday. The camera was in Lucas's room. He was sitting cross-legged on his bed, fiddling with a Lego set. Evelyn's voice came from off-camera, warm and syrupy. "Lucas, sweetheart, you know Grandma loves you, right?" He nodded without looking up. "Soon," she continued. "You're going to be here all the time. Just think, your own room here, no more switching houses. Won't that be nice?" Lucas's small voice was almost a whisper. "Why wouldn't I be with Mom?" There was a pause. Then Evelyn's tone sharpened ever so slightly. "Well, sometimes moms need a break. And yours might be leaving for a while. But don't worry, Grandma will take care of everything." I froze the frame. My hands curled into fists. This wasn't just about painting me as unstable. They were reprogramming my child, planting seeds so that when the day came, he wouldn't fight the idea of being taken from me. I scrubbed forward through the footage and saw other moments. Subtle digs slipped into bedtime chats, questions meant to make him doubt me. "Does Mommy forget things a lot? Did she get upset again today? Wouldn't it be nice if you stayed here during the week?" The anger was a physical thing in my chest now, hot and suffocating. I leaned back, trying to breathe through it. Lucas had been quieter lately, more distant. I'd thought it was just the stress of school or the custody arrangement. Now I knew better. The next morning, while he was eating breakfast, I sat beside him and kept my voice light. "Hey, buddy. Has anyone been saying strange things about me to you?" He froze mid-bite, eyes darting to the kitchen door like he was afraid someone might hear. Then, barely above a whisper, "Grandma said you don't want me anymore. I felt the air leave my lungs." I reached over and took his hand. "That's not true. I will never stop wanting you. You are my whole world." He nodded, but I saw the doubt in his eyes, and that's when my fear solidified into something sharper. They could record me, twist my words, vandalize my image. But the moment they used my son as a weapon, they crossed a line. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was war. By the time I walked Lucas to school the next morning, my mind was already made up. I wasn't going to wait until they struck again. After dropping him off, I drove straight to a law firm I'd found the night before, Mason and Tate, a small practice specializing in family law and digital privacy violations. The office smelled faintly of coffee and paper. The receptionist handed me a clipboard, and my hands shook as I filled out the intake form. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Grace Tate, listened without interrupting as I laid out everything: the cameras, the edited footage, the manipulation of Lucas. Then I slid the flash drive across her desk. She plugged it in, watched 30 seconds of a clip, then leaned back. "They dug their own grave," she said flatly. "We can file for an emergency protective order to keep your mother-in-law away from your son. And if we prove she planted those devices, she's facing criminal charges." Hearing it out loud steadied me. I wasn't crazy. This was real. Grace also gave me one piece of advice. Keep collecting evidence. The more, the better. And make sure it's undeniable. That afternoon, I stopped by an electronics store and bought 2 microcameras, the kind that could blend into a bookshelf or a picture frame. By evening, one was hidden in my living room, angled toward the front door, and the other was tucked into a potted plant outside my apartment window, aimed at my car. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, at 6:13 a.m., the outside camera recorded movement near my car. I was still asleep when it happened, but when I reviewed the footage later, my blood boiled. Evelyn, wearing a black coat and gloves, crouched beside my car door. In quick, deliberate strokes, she dragged something sharp along the paint, then shook a spray can and wrote in large, white letters, "Crazy" and "Unfit." When Lucas saw it later that morning, he just stood there on the sidewalk, confused. I knelt beside him, forcing a smile. "Someone very sad must have done this," I said gently, swallowing the rage in my throat. That afternoon, I was back in Grace's office with the footage. She wasted no time filing it alongside the existing complaint. 3 days later, the judge signed an emergency order. Evelyn's contact with Lucas was suspended indefinitely. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just felt still. For the first time in years, I had put up a wall they couldn't cross. But deep down, I knew this was only the first shot in a much longer battle, and they were not going to surrender quietly. 3 days after the court order against Evelyn, I got a text from an unknown number. For a split second, I thought it might be another warning, like the one at lunch. Instead, it read, "Can we meet? Alone. I can't keep this to myself anymore." The sender was Claire, Tyler's younger sister. We'd never been close. She was polite, but always kept her distance, like she didn't want to get dragged into the family politics. I hesitated before replying, but something in me knew this could be important. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown, the kind of place where the espresso machine drowns out conversations. She was already there when I walked in, hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to warm herself from the inside. "Hannah," she said, voice low. "I'm sorry it's taken me this long." I sat across from her. "Sorry for what?" She looked around, then reached into her bag and pulled out a manila envelope. She pushed it toward me without meeting my eyes. Inside were printed emails, dozens of them. My eyes caught on the subject line of the first. Plan B, if Hannah snaps. I scanned the messages, my pulse hammering in my ears. They were from Evelyn to Tyler, stretching back over a year. Instructions for installing hidden cameras. Lists of trigger phrases to provoke me. "You're forgetting things again. Do you need help managing Lucas? You're not okay. There were even notes on which days I was most likely to be emotional, based on my work schedule, court dates, even the anniversary of my father's death. Claire's voice trembled. I didn't know how far they were going to take it. I thought it was just about controlling the narrative. I didn't know they were going to use Lucas. When I saw those videos you posted online, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I stared at her. "Why now?" She swallowed hard. "Because they're going to escalate." Tyler's been talking to a custody lawyer, someone who specializes in getting full custody by claiming the other parent is unstable. And Hannah, she finally looked at me. "They have a timeline. They wanted you out before the end of the school year." She slid one last item across the table, a black flash drive. Everything I could copy without them noticing. Emails, audio files, even some of the raw footage before it was edited. "Do whatever you need to do. Just keep me out of it." My hands shook as I closed the envelope. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was cold. This was no longer a series of random acts of malice. It was a documented conspiracy. And now, I had proof. I spent the next week preparing like I was going into battle. The emails from Claire weren't just proof. They were the blueprint of my enemy's mind. Every calculated jab, every moment of staged chaos, every word designed to make me look unfit was there in black and white. I could have taken it straight to court and let the legal process run its course. But that wasn't enough. They'd been operating in shadows for too long. I wanted the masks to come off while everyone was watching. That's how the idea came to me. My birthday dinner. For years, they'd used it as another chance to belittle me under the guise of celebration. This year, I'd use it to burn the stage they loved so much. I booked a private room at a cozy restaurant in town, the kind with warm lighting and big windows overlooking the river. I sent invitations to everyone: Evelyn, Tyler, Nick, extended cousins, even a few of their close friends. I framed it as a fresh start, a chance to put the past behind us. They all accepted. Hypocrites. The night of the dinner, I wore a simple black dress and kept my hair loose. I smiled, I hugged, I thanked them for coming. And while they ordered wine and made small talk, the AV technician I'd hired slipped a small projector into position at the end of the room. Halfway through the meal, I stood up and tapped my glass. "Before dessert," I said with a calmness that felt almost dangerous, "I'd like to share a gift. Not for me, but for all of you." The lights dimmed. The first clip appeared on the wall, me reading a bedtime story to Lucas. Then, side by side, the edited version Evelyn had created, where she'd cut my words to make it seem like I was snapping at him. The contrast was undeniable. Murmurs rippled through the room. Then came the audio recordings. Evelyn telling Tyler, "If we keep pushing her, she'll crack, and we'll have the evidence we need." Tyler replying, "Then we'll get the house and Lucas." Evelyn's smile collapsed. She slammed her hand on the table. "You set this up!" Before I could speak, her husband, who had been silent all night, stood. His voice was sharp. "You set it up, Evelyn, not her. I bought the first camera, but I never agreed to turning Lucas into a pawn." The room fell into a stunned silence. Nick stared at his plate. One of Evelyn's cousins got up and left without a word. I let the moment hang, then nodded to the tech. "There's more." And there was. The dinner ended in chaos. Evelyn left without another word. Tyler stalked out after her, and the rest of the table dissolved into whispers. I stayed until the last plate was cleared, calm on the outside but buzzing inside. I thought I'd exposed everything. I thought the worst was behind me. 2 days later, I found out I was wrong. A thick envelope appeared in my apartment mailbox, no return address. Inside was a copy of a property sale contract for my apartment, the very place Lucas and I called home. The sale date was 2 days earlier. The buyer's name, Marissa Lane. I didn't recognize it. My first call was to Grace, my lawyer. She ran the name through public records and came back with something that made my blood run cold. Marissa Lane was an alias. The woman's legal name had been connected to a fraud conviction in another state. Even more disturbing, she wasn't a stranger at all. She was Tyler's former college girlfriend. It didn't take long for the rest to surface. Marissa had resurfaced in our lives quietly months ago, leasing an upscale apartment paid for by a company tied to Daniel Kearns, Tyler's former law partner. The same man who, Grace discovered, had been involved in another custody case years earlier where the other parent, a woman, was discredited through staged evidence and manipulation. That woman had eventually dropped her case. Now I understood why. This wasn't just Evelyn and Tyler's scheme. This was a pattern, a system. They'd done this before, they had help, and they were willing to bend laws until they snapped to get what they wanted. I sat at my kitchen table that night, the contract spread out in front of me. The more I stared at Tyler's signature, the clearer it became. Selling the apartment to Marissa wasn't just about property. It was about erasing me, removing my home base, taking away my sense of stability, and giving my son a new normal that didn't include me. The thought made me physically sick. I called Grace again, and this time my voice didn't shake. "We're not just fighting my ex-husband. We're fighting an organized pattern of abuse. We take all of them down. Tyler, Evelyn, Kearns, Marissa, every single one." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Then we go for the head of the snake. Money and reputation. That's where it will hurt most." I didn't know yet exactly how to do it, but I knew one thing. They thought they were playing chess. that every move I made was a reaction. They had no idea I was about to flip the entire board. Grace's plan was bold. Hit them in the one place they couldn't defend in public, their own stage. Tyler and Daniel Kearns were set to speak at a high-profile charity gala for family advocacy and stability. The irony was almost too much to bear. Grace pulled strings to get me into the guest list. We didn't tell anyone why. The week before the gala, I worked like my life depended on it. Because it did. I compiled everything: Evelyn's emails, the raw footage, the edited clips, Marissa's fraud records, property contracts, even statements from the other woman who'd been a victim of their tactics. Every file had a timestamp, a date, a witness. Every piece fit together like a noose tightening around their necks. On the night of the gala, I wore a simple navy dress, hair pinned back. No drama, no glitter. I wasn't there to dazzle. I was there to end this. The ballroom was all gold accents and expensive laughter. Tyler and Kearns sat at the head table, shaking hands, smiling for photos. Evelyn wasn't there. Maybe she knew the storm was coming. When the speeches began, Tyler took the stage first, talking about protecting the integrity of families. My hands curled into fists under the table. Kearns followed, praising the importance of truth in the courtroom. When the applause started, I stood. My heels clicked softly against the marble floor as I walked to the AV booth at the back. I handed the technician a flash drive. "Play this when I give the signal." I stepped onto the stage before anyone could stop me, took the mic, and let the room settle into silence. "Sorry for the interruption," I began, voice steady. "But I think everyone here deserves to see what these men consider family values." I nodded to the booth. The giant screen behind me lit up. Side-by-side videos, the doctored clips Evelyn and Tyler had made, next to the originals, audio of them discussing pushing me until I cracked, so they could get the house and Lucas, the property contract to Marissa, Kearns' emails arranging financial cover for her. The room was dead silent, except for the audio echoing over the sound system. Then came the murmur, low, sharp, growing. People turned in their seats, whispering, filming on their phones. Tyler's face was chalk white. Kearns tried to stand, but security blocked him. When the final image, Evelyn's Plan B email, faded from the screen, I lowered the mic. This isn't just about me. This is about anyone who's ever been silenced, manipulated, or erased, and it ends here. I walked off the stage without looking back. Within days, Kearns lost his license. Tyler was charged with conspiracy and fraud. Evelyn faced harassment charges. The property sale was voided. Marissa disappeared. Lucas and I moved to a quiet neighborhood, surrounded by people who actually smiled when they saw us. I started painting again. Moral: sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying the other person. It's building a life they can never touch and letting them watch from the ruins of their own making.